Mom fell down the stairs, my daughter told 911. But when I watched the security footage 3 days later, I saw something that made my blood run cold. She didn't fall. She was pushed. My name is Lorraine, and this is the story of how a single moment of violence unraveled 30 years of lies, revealed a truth I never suspected, and forced me to make a choice that would either destroy my family or save what was left of it. Let me take you back to the beginning, to a time when I thought I knew everything about the people I loved most in this world. I was wrong. So terribly, devastatingly wrong. I'm 62 years old now, a retired elementary school teacher from Richmond, Virginia. For most of my life, I believed I had done everything right. I married my high school sweetheart, Gerald, when I was 23. We built a beautiful life together, a 4-bedroom colonial house with a wraparound porch, 2 healthy children, Sunday dinners that smelled like pot roast and apple pie, Christmas mornings filled with laughter and wrapping paper scattered across hardwood floors. I was the woman other women envied, the one who seemed to have it all figured out. But on October 14th, 2 years ago, everything I thought I knew shattered like fine china dropped on concrete. It started as an ordinary Tuesday morning. I remember because Tuesdays were my favorite, the day I volunteered at the community center, teaching art classes to seniors. I'd already laid out my clothes the night before. A coral-colored sweater Gerald always said brought out the warmth in my hazel eyes, comfortable slacks, my pearl earrings. The coffee maker was burbling in the kitchen, and I was humming along to an old Fleetwood Mac song on the radio. Then the phone rang. It was my daughter Patricia, we call her Trish. She was 34 at the time, married to a financial advisor named Marcus, mother to my 2 precious grandchildren, 8-year-old Sophie and 5-year-old Nathan. Trish lived just 20 minutes away in a newer development, one of those neighborhoods where all the houses look vaguely similar, with their neat lawns and 2-car garages. "Mom," she said, and I could hear something strange in her voice. Not quite panic, but something close to it. Something that made my hand freeze halfway to my coffee mug. "Mom, you need to come to the hospital right away." My heart lurched. What happened? Is it the kids? Is Sophie okay? Nathan? No, the kids are fine. Mom, it's you. She paused, and in that pause I heard the universe shifting. I mean, we found you. At the bottom of the basement stairs. You fell, Mom. You've been unconscious for I don't know how long. The ambulance is taking you to Richmond Memorial right now. I stood there in my kitchen, coffee forgotten, radio still playing, and tried to make sense of what she was saying. "Trish, honey, I'm standing in my kitchen right now. I didn't fall anywhere. I'm fine." There was a long, terrible silence on the other end of the line. "Mom." Her voice had changed. It sounded smaller now, confused. "Mom, what are you talking about? I'm literally following the ambulance right now. I found you. I came over to drop off Sophie's school project. She left here and you were just lying there. You weren't moving. There was blood." A chill ran through me that had nothing to do with the autumn air seeping through the kitchen window. "Trish, listen to me very carefully. I am standing in my kitchen. I am not hurt. I did not fall. Where did you say you found someone?" "At your house. At 412 Maple Grove. In the basement at the bottom of the stairs." Now she sounded panicked, her voice rising. "Mom, are you having a stroke or something? You're not making sense." 412 Maple Grove. My address. Our address. The house Gerald and I had lived in for 28 years. But I was here. In this kitchen. Perfectly fine. "Where's Dad?" I asked slowly, my mind starting to race through possibilities, each one more impossible than the last. "I don't know. His car wasn't in the driveway when I got there. I called him 3 times, but he's not picking up. Mom, please just come to Richmond Memorial. Something's really wrong." I hung up and called Gerald. It went straight to voicemail. I called again. Same thing. On the 3rd try, I left a message. "Gerald, it's me. Call me immediately. Something very strange is happening." Then I did something I hadn't done in 39 years of marriage. I opened the drawer in Gerald's desk, the one he always kept locked, and I used the emergency key I'd hidden away years ago when he first bought the desk. I'm not sure what I was looking for, evidence of what I couldn't say, but some deep instinct, some primal knowing that lives in the gut of every woman who's ever loved someone, told me to look. Inside were folders, neat, organized, labeled. Insurance documents, mortgage papers, investment statements. Nothing unusual. But at the very back, tucked into a manila envelope marked personal, I found something that made the room spin. Photographs. Dozens of them. Of me. But not me. A woman who looked exactly like me. Same hazel eyes, same auburn hair that we both dyed to cover the gray. Same beauty mark just above the left side of our lips. Same small scar on the right eyebrow from a childhood bicycle accident. We were identical in every way that mattered. In the photos, this woman was doing things I'd done. Standing in my kitchen. Sitting in my reading chair. Lying in my bed. Wearing my clothes. Living my life. At the bottom of the stack was a birth certificate. Not mine. But it had my birthday. My parents' names. A hospital in Richmond. And a name I'd never heard before. Loretta Mae Hartley. My twin sister. The sister I never knew existed. I sat down hard in Gerald's desk chair. The photographs scattered across the polished wood surface like accusations. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold them. 39 years. He'd known about her for 39 years and never said a word. Not once. Not even a hint. Questions flooded my mind faster than I could process them. How long had she been in my life? In my house? With my husband? Where was she living? Did my children know? Did anyone know? And the most terrifying question of all. If she was at the bottom of my basement stairs, badly hurt, possibly dying, where was I supposed to be? I drove to Richmond Memorial in a daze, my mind fracturing into 1,000 pieces with each mile. The morning sun seemed too bright, the other cars on the road too loud, the world too sharp and too blurry all at once. I kept looking at my hands on the steering wheel, as if to confirm I was real, I was solid, I was actually me. The emergency room was chaos, the usual symphony of beeping monitors, rushing nurses, worried families in the waiting area clutching paper cups of bad coffee. I found Trish in the hallway outside one of the examination rooms. Her face was pale, tear-streaked, and when she saw me, she did something I'll never forget. She stepped back. Actually took a physical step away from me. "Mom," she whispered, looking at me like I was a ghost. "How are you? You're here. But you're also..." She gestured helplessly toward the examination room door. "Trish, baby, I need you to sit down. I need to explain something to you that I just found out myself an hour ago." I guided her to a plastic chair in the hallway, my heart breaking at the confusion and fear in her eyes. "I have a twin sister. I didn't know. Your father knew and he never told me. That woman in there, that's her. That's Loretta." My daughter stared at me like I'd just spoken in ancient Greek. "That's not possible. You don't have a sister. You're an only child. Grandma and Grandpa only had you." That's what I thought too. But I found photographs at the house. Documents. Trish, she exists. She's real. And somehow she's been part of our lives and we never knew. Before Trish could respond, a doctor emerged from the examination room, young, efficient, wearing scrubs decorated with cartoon characters that seemed obscene in their cheerfulness. "Family of Lorraine Hartley?" "Yes," Trish and I said simultaneously. The doctor looked between us, confused. "I'm Lorraine," I said. "The woman in there is Loretta. My twin sister." The doctor's eyebrows rose, but to her credit, she recovered quickly. "Well, Loretta has sustained significant trauma. Fractured skull, broken collarbone, 3 cracked ribs, and a severe concussion. She's stable, but she'll need surgery to relieve pressure on her brain from the swelling. The fall down the stairs caused considerable damage." "Can I see her?" I asked. "She's unconscious right now. But yes, for a few minutes." I left Trish in the hallway and entered the room. And there she was. Me. But not me. Loretta. Lying on the hospital bed, her face, my face, bruised and swollen, tubes and wires connecting her to machines that beeped steadily, monitoring a life I didn't know existed until an hour ago. I moved closer, studying her features. The same nose, slightly crooked from when I broke it playing softball in high school. The same hands with the same long fingers and the same habit of chewing the nails during stress. I could tell from how short they were. The same everything. "Who are you?" I whispered to her unconscious form. "And what have you been doing in my life?" My phone buzzed. "Gerald." Finally. "Lorraine," he said, and his voice was wrong. All wrong. Tight and controlled and afraid. "Where are you?" "At Richmond Memorial. With your wife. One of them anyway." "How many did you want, Gerald?" Was 2 not enough? Were you planning to collect the whole set? Don't. He stopped, exhaled. I can explain everything. You have 30 minutes to get to this hospital. And Gerald? Bring the truth with you because I'm done with the lies. I hung up before he could respond. If you're enjoying this story, please hit the like button. I promise you what's coming next will shock you even more. The next 27 minutes were the longest of my life. Trish joined me in Loretta's room, and we sat there in silence, 2 women staring at a third who wore my face like a mask. The machines beeped. Nurses came and went, checking vitals, adjusting IVs, their shoes squeaking on the linoleum floor. Outside the window, life went on. Cars in the parking lot, people walking with flowers and balloons, the ordinary world spinning as if mine hadn't just exploded. When did Dad start acting strange? I finally asked Trish, breaking the terrible quiet. She thought about it, chewing her bottom lip the way she'd done since she was a little girl trying to solve a difficult math problem. I don't think he did. That's what's so weird, Mom. Dad's been Dad. Same as always. Coming to Sunday dinners, playing with the kids, complaining about his golf game. Normal. What about your brother? Has Raymond noticed anything? Trish shook her head. I called him on the way here. He's driving up from Charlotte right now, should be here in a couple hours. But Mom, he was just as confused as I am. None of this makes sense. It didn't make sense. That was the problem. In a normal case of infidelity, there are signs. Late nights at the office. Mysterious phone calls. Distance. But Gerald had been Gerald. Present, affectionate, predictable as sunrise. We had date nights every Friday. He brought me coffee in bed every Sunday morning. We just celebrated our anniversary 3 months ago with a trip to Napa Valley, where he'd held my hand during wine tastings and told me I was still the most beautiful woman in any room. How do you cheat on someone with their identical twin and make it look like faithfulness? When Gerald walked through that hospital room door, he looked like he'd aged a decade in a morning. His salt and pepper hair was disheveled, his usually neat polo shirt wrinkled, his face pale and drawn. He saw me first, then his eyes slid to Loretta in the bed, then back to me. I watched something crumble in him, some carefully constructed wall that had held for decades. Out, I said to Trish without looking away from him. Give us the room. Mom, I don't think. Now, Patricia. She left reluctantly, closing the door behind her with a soft click that sounded like a gunshot in the silence. Gerald opened his mouth to speak, but I held up my hand. No. You don't get to talk yet. You don't get to explain or justify or make excuses. You're going to stand there and listen, and then you're going to answer every single question I ask you, and you're going to tell me the truth. Do you understand? He nodded, looking older than his 64 years. I've been your wife for 39 years, I said, my voice shaking with rage I'd never known I was capable of feeling. I've loved you since I was 17 years old. I've stood by you through job losses and family deaths and every hard thing life threw at us. I've raised your children, kept your home, shared your bed, built a life with you. And all this time you've been keeping a secret that involves my own flesh and blood. A sister I didn't even know I had. So here's what you're going to do, Gerald. You're going to start at the beginning, and you're going to tell me everything. And if I sense even a whisper of a lie, I'm walking out of here and you'll never see me again. Do we have an understanding? Yes, he whispered. Then talk. He moved to the window, his back to me, his shoulders hunched like a man expecting a blow. When he spoke, his voice was hollow, empty of everything but resignation. I met Loretta first, he said. Before I met you. It was the summer before our senior year of high school. I was working at the county fair, running the Ferris wheel. She came through one night, and I thought she was the most beautiful girl I'd ever seen. We dated for 6 weeks. It was intense, you know how young love is. Fast and consuming. We talked about getting married after graduation. He paused, swallowing hard. Then she vanished. Just disappeared. Left me a note saying she had to go away. That her family was moving and she couldn't say goodbye in person. I was devastated. Spent weeks trying to find her, asking around, but it was like she'd never existed. And then school started, and on the first day I saw you, standing by your locker, wearing the same face she had. The exact same face. I felt the blood drain from my own face as understanding began to dawn, cold and terrible. You thought I was her, I said. When you first approached me, you thought I was Loretta. Yes. I was angry at first, thought you were playing some kind of game. But you genuinely didn't know what I was talking about. You said your name was Lorraine, you'd lived in Richmond your whole life, you were an only child. I thought I was going crazy. But then I started to wonder, twins. Had to be. Separated somehow. I became obsessed with figuring it out. So you dated me to get information about Loretta? The words tasted like ashes. At first, maybe. I don't know anymore, Lorraine. It's been so long, and I've lied to myself as much as I've lied to you. But I fell in love with you. Actually in love with you. You were different from her. Calmer. Kinder. You made me feel safe instead of reckless. When I proposed, I meant it. I wanted to spend my life with you. Then why didn't you tell me about her? Why keep that secret? He turned from the window and I saw tears on his face. Real tears. It didn't move me. Because I convinced myself it didn't matter. You didn't know you had a sister, so why burden you with it? Why complicate things? We got married, we had kids, we built a life. It was good, Lorraine. It was real. When did she come back? He flinched at the question. 7 years ago. She showed up at my office one day. Said she'd been looking for family. Discovered through DNA testing that she had an identical twin. Tracked you down. But when she got to Richmond and started watching us, she couldn't bring herself to disrupt your life. She said you looked so happy. So she reached out to me instead. 7 years. 7 years of this deception. And you just welcomed her in? Invited her to play house with my family. It wasn't like that. He ran his hands through his hair, agitated now. She was alone, Lorraine. Completely alone. She'd had a hard life, foster care, bad relationships, addiction. She'd gotten clean and was trying to start over, but she had no one. She wanted to know you, wanted to be part of the family, but she was terrified you'd reject her. So you made that choice for me? Decided I didn't deserve to know I had a sister. She begged me not to tell you. She said she just wanted to be near the family, to see what it was like to have people who loved each other. I thought I could help her without disrupting everything. So I got her an apartment. Helped her get a job. Gave her money when she needed it. It was innocent, Lorraine. I swear. I laughed and it sounded like breaking glass. Innocent? Gerald, there's a woman who shares my DNA lying unconscious in a hospital bed. And I'm just now learning she exists. Nothing about this is innocent. I know. I know how it looks. How it looks. How about what it is? You've been living a double life. Did you sleep with her? The question hung in the air like poison gas. His silence was my answer. Oh God. I whispered, my hand going to my mouth. You did. You've been sleeping with both of us. It only happened once, he said desperately. Years ago, early on. We were both drunk and it was a mistake, a terrible mistake. I told her it could never happen again and it didn't. I swear to you, Lorraine, it didn't. I wanted to believe him. Some pathetic part of me that still loved the man I thought I'd married wanted to believe that the betrayal had limits, that there were lines he wouldn't cross. But trust, once shattered, doesn't reassemble easily. Why was she in our house? I asked. Why was she in our basement? Gerald's face went white. I don't know. She wasn't supposed to be there. You were supposed to be at the community center. I was supposed to be at work. She had a key, I gave her one in case of emergencies, but she knew never to go there when you were home. Something must have happened. She fell down the stairs, Gerald. Or someone pushed her. Which is it? I don't know. I wasn't there. Where were you? I was. He stopped and I saw calculation flicker across his face. The decision to lie again or finally tell the whole truth. Gerald, I said softly, dangerously. Where were you? I was with her. With Loretta. We'd met for coffee that morning. She'd been acting strange lately, paranoid. She kept saying someone was following her, that she felt watched. I thought she was spiraling again, maybe using. I wanted to check on her. We met at the cafe on Broad Street at 8:30. We talked for about an hour. She seemed okay, a little anxious maybe, but okay. Then she left. Said she had errands to run. That was the last time I saw her conscious. I processed this, my mind working through timelines and possibilities. What time did Trish say she found her? Around 11. So between 9:30 and 11, Loretta went to our house, went down to the basement, and either fell or was pushed. Why would she go to the basement? I don't know, Gerald said again, helpless, but I was beginning to form an idea. A terrible creeping suspicion that made my skin crawl. Does anyone else know about her? I asked. Besides you and me? No, I don't think so. She kept to herself. She worked from home as a freelance graphic designer. No close friends that I know of. She was. He struggled for words. She was like a ghost, Lorraine. She existed on the edges of things. Always watching, never quite part of anything. A ghost. That's exactly what she was. A phantom version of me, living a shadow life in my periphery. I need to see your phone, I said. What? Your phone, Gerald. Give it to me. Now. He hesitated, and that hesitation told me everything. But he pulled it from his pocket and handed it over. I scrolled through his contacts. No Loretta. No suspicious names. Then I checked his deleted messages. And there they were. Hundreds of them. Years' worth of deleted conversations. Recovered from the cloud backup he probably didn't know existed. I read them in chronological order, watching the relationship unfold in green and blue text bubbles. The early messages were innocent enough, check-ins, lunch plans, discussions about jobs and money. Then they grew more intimate. Not sexual but emotional. Loretta sharing her fears and dreams. Gerald offering advice and support. Then something shifted about 2 years ago. The messages became shorter, more cryptic. We need to talk. Meet me at the usual place. Did you tell her? Not yet. It's not the right time. When will it be the right time? I'm tired of waiting. Soon. I promise. And then, 3 days before the accident, I'm going to tell her myself. You've had long enough. Gerald's response. Don't. Please. Let me handle this. Loretta. I'm done hiding. She deserves to know the truth. We all do. I looked up at Gerald. She was going to tell me. She was going to expose everything, and you couldn't let that happen. I didn't push her. His voice rose, desperate now. I swear to God, Lorraine, I didn't touch her. I would never hurt her. Or you. But you've been lying to me for 7 years. You've been supporting her, keeping her close, making her part of our lives without my knowledge or consent. You've stolen 7 years of potential relationship with my sister from me. You've violated my trust in every possible way. So forgive me, Gerald, if I'm having a hard time believing you're incapable of violence. A knock on the door interrupted us. A nurse poked her head in. Excuse me, but there are police officers here. They'd like to speak with family members about the incident. Of course there were police. A mysterious fall down the stairs, significant injuries, a 911 call from a concerned daughter. They'd want to make sure this wasn't domestic violence or elder abuse. We'll be right there, I said. After the nurse left, I turned back to Gerald. Here's what's going to happen. We're going to talk to the police. We're going to tell them the truth about Loretta being my twin sister. We're going to answer their questions honestly. And then you're going to go home and pack a bag. And you're going to stay somewhere else while I figure out what to do with the rest of my life. Do you understand? Lorraine, please. Do you understand? He nodded, broken. Good. Now let's go tell the police that my husband has been harboring my secret twin sister for 7 years without my knowledge, and she mysteriously ended up at the bottom of my basement stairs. I'm sure they'll find that perfectly reasonable. The next hours were a blur of questions and skeptical looks from 2 detectives, a middle-aged man with kind eyes named Detective Morrison and a younger woman with sharp features named Detective Chan. They interviewed Trish first, then Gerald, then me. I told them everything I knew, showed them the photographs and documents I'd found, explained the impossible situation I'd walked into this morning. Let me get this straight, Detective Chan said, her pen poised over her notepad. You had no idea your twin sister existed until today. None whatsoever. And your husband has been secretly supporting her for 7 years? Apparently. Did he have a romantic or sexual relationship with her? I glanced at Gerald, who sat in the corner of the consultation room looking like he wanted to disappear into the walls. He claims it was a one-time incident years ago. But you don't believe him? Did I? I honestly didn't know anymore. The man I'd married, the man I thought I knew better than anyone, had proven himself capable of maintaining an elaborate deception for nearly a decade. What else was he capable of? I don't know what to believe, I admitted. Detective Morrison leaned forward, his voice gentle. Mrs. Hartley, I know this is difficult, but we need to establish timeline and opportunity. Where were you this morning between 9 and 11? At home. In my kitchen. I was getting ready to leave for the community center when Trish called me about the accident. Can anyone verify that? I thought about it. I was alone. Gerald had already left for work. But I can show you my phone records. I made several calls from my home landline during that time. Called the community center to confirm my volunteer shift. Called my friend Ruth to chat. Called my dentist to reschedule an appointment. Detective Chun made notes. And Mr. Hartley, you say you were having coffee with Loretta at a cafe on Broad Street? Yes. The Bean Counter. We were there from 8:30 to about 9:30. We'll verify that with the cafe's security cameras, Detective Morrison said. Now, here's the question that's bothering me. Why would Loretta go to your house, specifically to the basement, at a time when she knew Mrs. Hartley might be home? That was the question, wasn't it? The one I'd been turning over in my mind like a Rubik's Cube I couldn't solve. Unless she didn't know Lorraine would be there, Detective Chun said slowly. Mr. Hartley, did Loretta have access to your wife's schedule? Gerald shifted uncomfortably. She knew Lorraine volunteered on Tuesdays. I might have mentioned it. So she would have expected the house to be empty, Morrison said. Which brings us back to the question. What was she looking for in the basement? I have a home office down there, I said. It's where I keep personal files, photo albums, family documents. Things from my childhood. The detectives exchanged a look. We're going to need to examine your basement, Chun said. With your permission, of course. If this was an accident, we need to document the scene. And if it wasn't? She didn't finish the sentence. She didn't need to. Of course, I said. Whatever you need. They left to coordinate with the forensics team, and I was alone with Gerald again. The silence between us was heavy with everything unsaid, everything broken. Did you push her? I asked quietly. No. Did you hire someone to hurt her? God, no, Lorraine. I would never. But you kept her secret. You helped her live this half-life. You gave her access to my home, my family, my entire existence, and you never once thought I deserved to know. So forgive me if I'm questioning your judgment about what you would or wouldn't do. He had no answer for that. My son Raymond arrived around 2 in the afternoon, bursting into the waiting room with his wife and looking exactly like his father had 30 years ago, tall, broad-shouldered, with the same worried crease between his eyebrows. He saw me and Gerald sitting on opposite sides of the room, and immediately understood that something beyond a medical emergency had occurred. Mom, he said. Dad? What's going on? Trish said something crazy about a twin sister. I stood up, suddenly exhausted down to my bones. Raymond, honey, sit down. We have a lot to talk about. I told him everything. Watched his face cycle through disbelief, shock, anger, and finally a kind of weary resignation that broke my heart. My children had always believed their parents had a solid, loving marriage. They'd grown up in a stable home with parents who held hands and laughed together. This revelation was shattering their childhood retroactively, painting their whole history in shades of deception. So let me get this straight, Raymond said when I finished. His voice was carefully controlled, the way it got when he was truly furious but trying to stay professional. Dad has been secretly funding and supporting a woman who looks exactly like Mom, who is actually Mom's twin sister, for 7 years. And none of us knew. Not Mom, not me, not Trish. No one. That's correct, I said. Raymond turned to Gerald. Dad, what the hell were you thinking? I was trying to help someone who had no one else, Gerald said weakly. By lying to all of us? By betraying Mom? By letting this woman, this stranger, orbit our family without our knowledge or consent? That's not help, Dad. I don't even have words for what that is. Your father made a series of choices that prioritized someone else's comfort over my right to know the truth about my own family, I said. Now your aunt, and yes, she is your aunt, your blood relative, is lying in a hospital bed with a fractured skull, and we don't know if she fell or was pushed. The police are investigating. This is going to get messy before it gets better. and who'd been silent until now, spoke up. What can we do to help? I loved her in that moment. Not what should we think or whose side should we be on, but how can we help? That's family. Be here for each other, I said. And wait. That's all we can do right now. A nurse came to tell us that Loretta was being prepared for surgery to relieve pressure on her brain. The next few hours would be critical. We settled in for a long wait. That strange liminal space of hospital time where minutes stretch like taffy and everything feels suspended. At some point, Trish brought coffee from the cafeteria. At another point, Raymond's kids called, and took them outside to explain that Grandma was okay but they wouldn't be able to visit for a while. Gerald sat alone in the corner, untouched magazine in his lap, staring at nothing. I found myself thinking about Loretta, this sister I'd never known. What had her life been like? Gerald had mentioned foster care, addiction, hard relationships. While I'd grown up in a loving home with parents who doted on me, gave me piano lessons and helped with homework and took pictures on my wedding day, where had she been? What pain had shaped her? What loneliness? And now she'd spent 7 years watching me live the life she'd been denied, seeing the family she might have been part of if circumstances had been different. How must that have felt? To be so close to belonging but never quite achieving it? To exist as a shadow, a secret, a hidden thing? I felt anger at her for not coming to me directly, for not giving me the choice to know her. But beneath the anger was something else. Grief. For the sisterhood we'd never had. For the decades lost. For the relationship that might have been if anyone, Gerald, Loretta, even my parents who must have known about her, had told me the truth. Detective Morrison found me around 6 in the evening. His expression was carefully neutral, which immediately put me on alert. Mrs. Hartley, can we talk privately? We moved to a small consultation room down the hall. He closed the door and pulled out his notepad. We've examined the basement and pulled the security footage from your home system, he said. Do you have cameras in your house? Just one, I said. Front door camera for packages. Gerald installed it a few years ago. Did you know you also have one in the basement? I blinked. No. I had no idea. It's small. Hidden in the smoke detector. Looks like it was installed fairly recently, maybe 6 months ago. It records motion-activated footage to a cloud server. He paused. Mrs. Hartley, we need to talk about what that camera showed us. My mouth went dry. What did it show? Loretta didn't fall down the stairs. She was pushed. By your daughter. The world tilted sideways. That's impossible, I whispered. Trish found her. She called 911. She was trying to help. She called 911 after she pushed Loretta down the stairs, Morrison said gently. The footage is clear, Mrs. Hartley. Your daughter arrived at the house around 10:45. She entered through the front door using a key. She went straight to the basement. Loretta was down there, going through boxes of what looks like photo albums and documents. They argued. We can't hear what was said, but their body language suggests it was heated. Then Patricia shoved Loretta hard. Loretta fell backward down the stairs. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think. This wasn't possible. My daughter. My sweet, responsible daughter who organized charity drives and baked cookies with her kids and sang in the church choir. There has to be a mistake, I said. Some explanation. After Loretta fell, Patricia stood at the top of the stairs for approximately 30 seconds. Just standing there, looking down. Then she pulled out her phone and called 911. The call we have on record. Mom fell down the stairs. She deliberately misidentified the victim. Why would she do that? It doesn't make any sense. We were hoping you could help us answer that question. Did Patricia know about Loretta? No, none of us knew. I told you that. But even as I said it, doubt crept in. Was that true? Had Trish known? Had she somehow discovered the secret before I did? We're going to need to bring Patricia in for questioning, Morrison said. I wanted to tell you first as a courtesy, given that you're also a victim in this situation, the deception perpetrated by your husband and Loretta. She wouldn't hurt anyone, I said desperately. She's a mother. She's gentle. She saves spiders instead of killing them. People are capable of surprising things when they feel threatened or betrayed, Morrison said quietly, especially when it comes to protecting their families. He left me alone in the consultation room, and I sat there trying to make sense of a world that had become utterly incomprehensible. My husband had been lying to me for years. My twin sister had been living in secret nearby. And now my daughter, my beautiful, kind daughter, had possibly tried to kill someone. Do you think my decision was right or wrong? Tell me in the comments, because what I did next changed everything. I found Trish in the cafeteria, stirring a cup of tea she hadn't touched, her face pale as moonlight. When she saw me approaching, something flickered in her eyes. Fear, maybe, or resignation. She knew. Somehow she knew that I knew. I sat down across from her, my hands folded on the table between us, and looked at my daughter, really looked at her, searching for signs of the person who could push someone down a flight of stairs. I saw only exhaustion and something that looked like relief. The police found a camera in the basement, I said quietly. They saw what happened. Trish closed her eyes and a single tear slipped down her cheek. I know. I saw it too. The smoke detector had a little red light that blinked after it happened. That's when I realized Dad had been recording down there. He was watching her. Watching both of you, probably. My stomach turned to ice. What do you mean, both of us? Mom. Trish opened her eyes, and they were full of a pain so deep it seemed to hollow her out. I've known about her for 3 months. About Loretta. About what Dad was doing. About all of it. The betrayal hit me like a physical blow. 3 months? You've known for 3 months and you didn't tell me. I wanted to. God, Mom, I wanted to tell you every single day. But I needed to be sure. I needed to understand what was really happening before I destroyed your marriage, your life, everything you believed in. So I started investigating. Following Dad. Tracking his movements. Checking bank records. I'm the executor on your estate, remember? I have access. And what I found? She shook her head, fresh tears falling. What I found was so much worse than an affair. Tell me, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. Tell me everything. Trish pulled out her phone, scrolled through it, and turned it toward me. On the screen was a photograph of a document, a life insurance policy. My life insurance policy. $2 million with Gerald as the beneficiary. Nothing unusual about that. Except the date it had been updated. 6 months ago. Right around the time I realized with growing horror that the basement camera had been installed. Keep looking, Trish said, swiping to the next image. Another policy. Same amount. Same beneficiary. But this one had a different name on it. Loretta May Hartley. It had been taken out 5 years ago. He insured both of you, Trish said, her voice hollow. 2 identical policies. $2 million each. $4 million total if something happened to both of his wives. The word hung in the air between us. Wives. Plural. What are you saying? I asked, though part of me already knew. Already understood. I'm saying Dad didn't just have an affair with your twin sister 7 years ago. He married her, Mom. Legally married her. In Nevada 4 years ago. I found the marriage certificate. He's a bigamist. And I think he was planning to kill one of you, maybe both of you, for the insurance money. The room spun. I gripped the edge of the table to keep from falling out of my chair. That's insane. Gerald isn't a murderer. He's an accountant. He plays golf. He does crossword puzzles. He cries during Pixar movies. He's also a man who's been living 2 lives for 7 years and keeping massive secrets from everyone who loves him, Trish said. Mom, I've been documenting everything. The money he's been funneling to offshore accounts. The credit cards in Loretta's name that he pays. The rental property he owns that no one knows about. That's where Loretta really lives, not some apartment like he told you. He's been systematically preparing for something. And 3 weeks ago, he significantly increased both insurance policies. I thought about Gerald this morning, his face when he walked into that hospital room. The fear in his eyes. The way he'd said, I wasn't there, when I asked where he'd been. Had that been the fear of being caught in a lie? Or the fear of being caught in something much worse? Why didn't you go to the police? I asked. If you suspected he was planning to hurt me, hurt us, why investigate on your own? Because I needed proof. Real proof, not just suspicions. And because, her voice broke. Because he's my father, Mom. He taught me to ride a bike. He helped me with my math homework. He walked me down the aisle at my wedding. I needed to believe there was some explanation, some reason that would make sense of all this. So I kept digging. And the more I found, the more terrified I became. What made you go to the house this morning? Trish wrapped her hands around her teacup, seeking warmth in a world that had gone cold. I'd been tracking Dad's phone. He met Loretta at the cafe this morning like he told you. But what he didn't tell you is that he gave her something. An envelope. I couldn't see what was in it, but their conversation looked intense. Heated even. Then she left, and instead of going to work like he said, Dad drove in the opposite direction. He went to Home Depot, bought rope, zip ties, and a tarp. Then he drove toward your house. My blood turned to ice water in my veins. Oh God. I followed him. He parked 3 streets over and walked to your house through the woods behind your property. He had a key to the back door, one you didn't know about, I'm guessing. He went inside. I waited for about 10 minutes, terrified of what was happening, trying to decide if I should call the police or go in myself. Then he came out, got in his car, and drove to his office like it was just another normal day. So I used my key and went inside to check on you. But I wasn't there, I said. Loretta was. I didn't know that at first. Called out for you. No answer. Your car was in the garage, so I thought maybe you were in the shower or out in the garden. Then I heard noise from the basement. Movement. Someone going through boxes. I thought it was Dad, that he'd come back. So I went downstairs and there she was. Wearing your clothes. Your blue cardigan, the one with the pearl buttons that Dad gave you for Christmas. Your wedding ring, Mom. She was wearing your wedding ring. I looked down at my left hand instinctively. My wedding ring was there, where it had been for 39 years. That's impossible. I'm wearing my ring. She had one exactly like it. I checked later, Dad bought 2 identical rings. One for each of you. Trish's face crumpled. She was surrounded by photo albums, Mom. Pictures of you as a kid. Pictures of Grandma and Grandpa. She was crying. Just sitting there on the basement floor in your clothes, wearing your ring, crying over pictures of the childhood she never had. What did you say to her? I asked who she was. She looked up at me and it was like looking at you but wrong somehow. Like a copy that's almost perfect but not quite. She said, I'm Loretta. I'm your mother's sister. I'm sorry you had to find out this way. And something in me just snapped. Trish's hands were shaking now, tea sloshing in the cup. I reached across and steadied it. This simple maternal gesture performed on autopilot, while my world continued to shatter. I asked her how long she'd been coming into our house, how long she'd been wearing your clothes, touching your things, living pieces of your life when you weren't home. She said years. She said Dad gave her a key 3 years ago. Said she'd been coming by whenever you were at the community center or running errands. Said she liked to sit in your reading chair and pretend this was her life. Her family. Her home. The violation of it made my skin crawl. All those times I'd come home and felt like something was slightly off. A book moved, a throw pillow adjusted, the faint scent of perfume that wasn't quite mine. I chalked it up to imagination, to Gerald tidying up. But it had been her. My ghost twin haunting my life. She told me Dad was going to leave you, Trish continued. Said he'd promised her that once the insurance was in place and enough time had passed, he'd find a way to make you disappear. Make it look like an accident or a disappearance. Then, after a respectful period of grief, he'd marry her publicly. She'd become you essentially. Step into your life completely. Be grandmother to Sophie and Nathan. Host Sunday dinners. Everything. And she was okay with this plan? I asked, my voice distant even to my own ears. She was fine with me being murdered so she could take over my life? She said she didn't have a choice. That she loved Dad, and this was the only way they could be together. She said you'd stolen her life before she ever had a chance at it, that if Grandma and Grandpa had kept her instead of giving her up for adoption, she'd have been the one with the perfect family and you'd have been the one in foster care. She said it was justice. Cosmic balance. Trish's eyes hardened. That's when I pushed her. Tell me exactly what happened. She stood up. Started walking toward the stairs. Said she needed to leave before you came home. That Dad would be angry if she was still there. And I couldn't let her walk out. Couldn't let her go back to Dad and tell him I knew everything. Couldn't let them continue this plan to kill you. So when she was at the top of the stairs, I pushed her. I didn't think about it. Didn't plan it. I just pushed. She looked at me then, really looked at me, and I saw my daughter's soul laid bare. I watched her fall, Mom. watched her tumble down those stairs and land at the bottom in a heap, and I felt nothing. No guilt. No horror. Just this cold, clean sense of protecting my family, of stopping something terrible from happening. Then I called 911 and said you fell because I needed help fast. And I wasn't thinking clearly enough to explain the whole insane situation. Why did you say it was me? Why not just tell them the truth? Because if I said my mother's secret identical twin fell down the stairs, they'd have thought I was having a breakdown. They'd have wasted precious time asking questions instead of sending an ambulance. And because in that moment, looking at her lying there in your clothes, I couldn't entirely separate her from you. She was you and not you. Real and not real. Trish wiped her eyes roughly. I was trying to save her life even though part of me wanted her dead. How's that for irony? I sat back in my chair trying to process everything. My husband was a bigamist who'd been planning to murder me for insurance money. My twin sister was complicit in this plan, motivated by jealousy and a lifetime of pain. My daughter had pushed Loretta down the stairs to protect me. And I was the only person in this entire nightmare who'd been completely in the dark. The police are coming to arrest you, I said quietly. I know. You'll be charged with attempted murder. Or assault. Maybe both. I know that too. Why didn't you run? You could have left after talking to the police, gotten a head start. Trish smiled sadly. Because I'm not running from this, Mom. I did what I did to protect you. I'm not ashamed of that. I'll face whatever consequences come. But you need to know the whole truth first. You need to be able to protect yourself from Dad. Where is all your evidence? The documents, the photos. Encrypted cloud storage. I'll give the police access to everything. But I make copies for you too. She slid a USB drive across the table. Everything's on here. Bank statements, insurance policies, the marriage certificate, photos of Dad meeting with Loretta, recordings of their phone calls. I cloned his phone 3 weeks ago. It's all there. Every piece of evidence you need to protect yourself, divorce him, and make sure he goes to prison where he belongs. I picked up the USB drive, this tiny piece of plastic that contained the destruction of my entire life, and slipped it into my pocket. Does Raymond know any of this? No. I couldn't burden him with it. He idolizes Dad. This will destroy him. She paused. But he needs to know. They both need to know, Raymond and Marcus. Because if Dad was willing to kill you for money, none of us are safe. Detective Morrison appeared in the cafeteria doorway, another officer beside him. His expression was apologetic but firm. Patricia Hartley? Trish stood up, calm and dignified. I'm ready. We need you to come with us to answer some questions about the incident this morning. I understand. She looked at me one last time. I love you, Mom. Everything I did was to protect you. Please remember that, whatever happens next. I love you too, baby, I whispered. And I'm going to fix this. I promise. They led her away in handcuffs, my daughter, who'd never gotten so much as a speeding ticket, now facing criminal charges for attempted murder. I sat alone in the cafeteria, surrounded by the smell of industrial coffee and antiseptic, and tried to decide what to do next. The obvious choice was to go to the police with Trish's evidence, expose Gerald's plan, and let the system handle it. But something held me back. Maybe it was 39 years of loving him. Maybe it was the need to hear his explanation in his own words. Maybe it was simple foolishness. But I needed to confront him first. Needed to look him in the eyes and ask him if he'd really been planning to kill me. I found him in the surgical waiting room, head in his hands, looking like a man who'd aged decades and hours. When he heard me approach, he looked up, and I saw something in his face I'd never seen before. Fear. Raw animal fear. Lorraine. Don't, I said. Don't say my name like you have any right to it. Don't speak at all. Just listen. I sat down across from him, maintaining distance, and pulled out my phone. I'd already uploaded the contents of Trish's USB drive to my own cloud storage and downloaded the key files. I opened the first one, the marriage certificate showing Gerald Hartley's marriage to Loretta Mae Hartley, dated September 15th, 4 years ago, in Las Vegas, Nevada, and turned the screen toward him. The color drained from his face. I know everything, I said quietly. I know you married her. I know about the insurance policies. I know about the offshore accounts and the rental property and the money you've been hiding. I know about the rope and zip ties and tarp you bought this morning. I know you've been planning to murder me and make it look like an accident. So here's what you're going to do, Gerald. You're going to tell me the truth. The whole truth, not the sanitized version you've been feeding me. And depending on what you say, I'll decide whether to go directly to the police or give you a chance to turn yourself in. He opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. No words came out. He looked like a fish drowning in air. Start talking, I said, or I walk out of here and you'll be arrested within the hour. It wasn't supposed to be like this, he finally said, his voice barely audible. None of this was supposed to happen this way. How was it supposed to happen, Gerald? Walk me through the plan. How were you planning to kill me? He flinched at the word. It wasn't about killing you. It was about finally being free. Free. I laughed and it sounded like breaking glass. You've been married to me for 39 years. You could have divorced me at any time. You could have told me about Loretta, introduced us, and let us build a relationship like normal people. Instead, you married us both, took out matching life insurance policies, and bought zip ties. That's not seeking freedom, Gerald. That's premeditated murder. I love her, he said, and there was something in his voice, a desperate sincerity that made it worse somehow. I know you won't believe me, and I know it doesn't excuse anything, but I love Loretta. I've loved her since I was 17 years old. She's the one who got away, the one I never forgot. When she came back into my life, it was like getting a second chance at something I'd lost. So you married her, while still married to me. She was so broken, Lorraine, so damaged from her life. She needed stability, needed to feel claimed and chosen. The marriage was symbolic at first, just a ceremony to show her she mattered. But then she wanted it to be legal, and I thought I could manage both. Keep you in your life, keep her in hers, and somehow balance between you. Until the money ran out? Until supporting two households became too expensive? Is that when you decided murder was more cost-effective than divorce? It wasn't like that. He ran his hands through his hair, agitated. The insurance policies were Loretta's idea. She said if something happened to either of us, the other should be protected. She was paranoid about losing everything again. I thought I was just giving her peace of mind. And the increased premiums 3 weeks ago? She said she'd been having nightmares. About accidents. About losing me. She begged me to increase the coverage. I thought I was just humoring her. Keeping her calm. What about the rope and zip ties you bought this morning? He was silent for a long moment. She called me last night. Said she couldn't do this anymore. Couldn't keep living in secret, watching you have the life she wanted. She said she was going to tell you everything this morning. Going to come to the house and introduce herself and let the chips fall where they may. I panicked. Tried to talk her out of it. But she was determined. So you bought materials to restrain her? To stop her by force? I don't know what I was planning. His voice rose, desperate now. I wasn't thinking clearly. I just knew I couldn't let her ruin everything. Couldn't let 39 years of marriage implode. Couldn't lose you. So I went to the house to talk to her. To convince her to wait, to be patient, to give me time to figure out the right way to handle this. But she was already there when you arrived. Yes. In the basement. Going through your things. Our things. She said she was looking for proof that she existed. That she mattered. That she wasn't just a ghost. She found your baby book, the one your mother made. She was crying over it, saying she should have had one too. Saying it wasn't fair that you got everything and she got nothing. What did you do, Gerald? He looked at me and I saw something crack in him. Some final wall of deception crumbling. I told her I'd leave you. That I'd divorce you and marry her publicly and give her the life she wanted. I told her she just needed to be patient a little longer while I arranged things. Made sure the financial transition would be smooth. And she believed you? She wanted to believe me. But she said she was tired of waiting. Tired of being the secret. She said if I didn't tell you the truth by the end of the week, she would. He slumped forward, defeated. So I left. I couldn't deal with it anymore. Couldn't think straight. I went to my office and tried to figure out what to do. And then Trish called saying Loretta was hurt, and I thought. You thought what? I thought maybe the problem had solved itself, he whispered. God help me, for just a moment I thought maybe if Loretta died, everything could go back to normal. You'd never have to know. The secret would die with her. And I hated myself for thinking it, but I couldn't help it. I looked at this man I'd shared my life with, this stranger wearing my husband's face, and felt nothing but exhaustion. Did you push her, Gerald? Did you go back to the house after leaving and push her down those stairs? No. I swear to you I didn't. I was at my office when it happened. You can check the security logs. I was there. Your daughter pushed her. To protect me from you. Because she discovered your plan and thought you were going to kill me. The shock on his face seemed genuine. Trish did it? Trish pushed Loretta. She's being questioned by police right now. Probably being charged with attempted murder. Your daughter is going to prison because she was trying to save my life from her own father. Gerald made a sound like a wounded animal. No, this can't. I never wanted anyone hurt. I never wanted. But people are hurt, Gerald. Loretta's in surgery fighting for her life. Trish is facing criminal charges. I've lost my marriage, my trust, my sense of reality. Raymond's about to find out his father is a bigamist and a potential murderer. Our grandchildren are going to grow up knowing their grandfather destroyed their family. You've hurt everyone, Gerald. Everyone you claim to love. What are you going to do? He asked, his voice small. I stood up, looking down at this man I'd loved since I was 17. I'm going to make sure Loretta gets the best medical care possible. She's my sister and she deserves to live, regardless of the choices she made. Then I'm going to get Trish the best lawyer money can buy and fight to keep her out of prison. She was protecting her mother. Any jury will understand that. And me. You're going to turn yourself into the police. You're going to confess to the bigamy, the insurance fraud, and whatever else they charge you with. You're going to cooperate fully with the investigation. And you're going to sign divorce papers giving me everything, the house, the retirement accounts, all of it. You're going to do this because if you don't, I'll release every piece of evidence Trish collected to the police, the press, and anyone else who'll listen. I'll make sure your name is synonymous with betrayal for the rest of your life. Lorraine, please. I'm not finished. After you've served whatever time you're sentenced to, you're going to stay away from me and our children. You'll have no contact except through lawyers. You'll pay whatever restitution is required. And you'll live with the knowledge that you destroyed the best thing that ever happened to you. A family that loved you unconditionally. For a fantasy that was never real. I walked toward the door, then turned back. One more thing. Did you ever love me? Really love me? Or was I always just the consolation prize when you couldn't have Loretta? He looked at me with tears streaming down his face. I loved you, Lorraine. God help me, I loved you. I just loved her more. I nodded, unsurprised. That's what I thought. I left him there and went to find Detective Morrison. It was time to tell the truth and let the system sort out the consequences. The next weeks were a blur of legal proceedings, media attention, and emotional wreckage. The story was too sensational to stay private. Secret twin, bigamist husband, daughter protecting mother, insurance fraud scheme. It was everything the news cycle loved. Our faces were plastered across local papers and even made national news for a few days. Loretta survived the surgery. The doctors said she'd make a full recovery, though she'd need months of physical therapy. When she finally woke up, I was there. She looked at me with my own eyes and started crying. I'm sorry, she whispered. I'm so sorry for everything. So am I said. And I meant it. I was sorry she'd had the life she'd had. Sorry she'd been given up for adoption while I'd been kept. Sorry that pain and jealousy had turned her into someone who could participate in a plan to end my life. Sorry that we'd lost so many years that could have been filled with sisterhood instead of secrets. I never wanted you dead, she said. I want you to know that. When Gerald first suggested the insurance plan, I thought it was just practical. Protection in case something happened naturally. I didn't understand what he was really planning until it was too late. And by then I was in so deep, I didn't know how to get out. Did you love him? I asked. Or did you love the idea of the life I had? She thought about it for a long moment. Both. Neither. I don't know anymore. I loved feeling like I belonged somewhere. Like I mattered to someone. Gerald gave me that, even if it was built on lies. He gave us both lies, I said. We were both victims of his selfishness. Can you ever forgive me? I looked at my sister, my mirror, my ghost. I don't know yet, but I want to try. When you're better, when all the legal issues are settled, maybe we can start over. Build something real between us. It won't erase what happened, but it might create something good from all this destruction." She nodded, hope flickering in her eyes. My eyes. I'd like that. Gerald was charged with bigamy, insurance fraud, and conspiracy to commit murder based on the evidence Trish had collected. His lawyer tried to argue that there was no concrete plan, only speculation. But the combination of the second marriage, the insurance policies, the offshore accounts, and the materials he'd purchased the morning of Loretta's fall painted a damning picture. He plea bargained down to 8 years in prison in exchange for a full confession and cooperation. Trish's case was more complicated. She'd committed assault, that was indisputable. But the circumstances were extraordinary. She discovered a plot to murder her mother and acted impulsively to stop it. Her lawyer argued temporary insanity brought on by extreme emotional distress. The prosecutor wanted jail time as a deterrent against vigilante justice. I testified at her trial, told the jury about discovering my twin sister's existence, about the basement camera and the second marriage and the insurance fraud, about a daughter who loved her mother enough to risk everything to protect her. I looked each juror in the eye and asked them, "What would you have done? If you discovered someone was planning to kill your mother, and you had seconds to decide, would you have acted?" The jury deliberated for 6 hours. They found Trish guilty of assault but recommended leniency. The judge sentenced her to 2 years, suspended pending completion of 5 years probation, and 500 hours of community service. She walked out of that courtroom a free woman, and I held her as she sobbed with relief. Marcus stood by her through everything. So did Raymond, once he processed the shock of what his father had done. The family fractured, but the pieces that mattered, my children, my grandchildren, my self-respect, remained intact. I did divorce Gerald. Took everything as promised. The house, the retirement accounts, the investments. I sold the house, I couldn't live there anymore. Not with the ghost of Loretta haunting every room. And bought a smaller place in a different neighborhood. A fresh start. Loretta recovered and moved to Oregon, wanting distance from the scandal and the memories. We talk on the phone every few weeks. Video chat on birthdays. We're learning each other slowly, carefully, like people who've been hurt learning to trust again. She's in therapy now, working through the trauma of her childhood and the choices she made as an adult. I'm proud of her for that. Proud of the person she's trying to become. I've changed too. I'm not the woman who believed she had everything figured out anymore. I'm not the one who thought a good marriage and a clean house and perfect Sunday dinners meant a perfect life. I'm someone who learned that the people you love most can still betray you. That family can be complicated and messy and still worth fighting for. That strength sometimes means walking away and sometimes means holding on, and the wisdom is knowing which is which. Sophie and Nathan adjusted better than I expected. Children are resilient that way. They know they have 2 grandmothers now, me and Aunt Loretta, and they accept it with the easy grace of youth. They know their grandfather made bad choices and is serving time for those choices. We don't hide the truth from them, but we frame it in age-appropriate ways. Mistakes and consequences. Love and forgiveness. The complexity of being human. On Sundays I still make pot roast. But now it's just for me or for my kids and grandkids when they visit. I eat at my own pace, savor my own company. I've joined a book club. Started painting again. Something I'd loved in college but abandoned when life got busy. I'm teaching art classes at the community center, helping other people discover the joy of creation. Some days are harder than others. I still catch myself reaching for the phone to call Gerald about something mundane. A funny thing I heard on the radio, a problem with the water heater, before remembering. The habit of 39 years doesn't disappear overnight. But those moments are becoming less frequent. The muscle memory of marriage is fading, replaced by the muscle memory of independence. People ask me if I hate Gerald. If I hate Loretta. The answer is complicated. I hate what they did. I hate the betrayal and the lies and the years lost to deception. But I don't hate them. Hate requires a level of emotional investment I no longer have. Mostly I feel sad. Sad for what we all lost. Sad for the family we might have been if honesty had prevailed. Sad for Gerald rotting in prison, having destroyed everything he claimed to love for a fantasy that was never sustainable. But I'm also grateful. Grateful that the truth came out before it was too late. Grateful for my daughter's courage and my son's steadfast support. Grateful for my grandchildren's laughter and my sister's tentative steps toward redemption. Grateful for every new morning when I wake up in my own bed, in my own house, living my own life on my own terms. Last month, I visited Gerald in prison. First time since the trial. He looked older, grayer, smaller somehow. Prison had diminished him in ways that had nothing to do with physical size. "Why did you come?" he asked through the glass partition, his voice distorted by the phone. "Closure," I said. "And to tell you that I forgive you." He blinked, shocked. "You what?" "I forgive you. Not because what you did was forgivable. Not because you deserve it. But because holding on to anger was poisoning me. I forgive you so I can move on with my life without carrying you in my heart like a stone." "I don't deserve your forgiveness." "No," I agreed. "You don't. But I'm giving it to you anyway. Consider it a gift. One last thing I can give before closing the door on this chapter forever. Do you ever think about what might have been?" he asked. "If I'd been honest from the start? If I'd introduced you to Loretta properly? If we'd all tried to build something together?" "Every day," I admitted. "But that's not the life we got. We got this one. The one filled with betrayal and pain and legal battles. And we have to live with that. Make peace with it. Find meaning in it." "I'm sorry," he said. "For whatever it's worth now, I'm so damn sorry." "I know," I said. And then I hung up the phone, stood up, and walked out of that prison without looking back. 3 months ago, Loretta came to visit. Her first time back in Virginia since the trial. We met at a neutral location, a cafe in a town neither of us had history in. She looked good. Healthy. Her hair was shorter than mine now, and she'd gained a little weight in a way that made her look less gaunt, more alive. We talked for hours. About our parents, the ones who kept me and the ones who adopted her. About the parallel lives we'd lived, so similar in some ways, so different in others. About the genetic quirks we shared, the same tendency to sneeze in bright sunlight, the same habit of reading the end of a mystery novel first, the same irrational fear of birds. "I used to watch you," she admitted. "Before I ever contacted Gerald. I'd sit in my car outside your house and watch you through the windows. Watch you cook dinner, water your garden, read on the porch. And I'd feel this intense longing. Not for your husband or your house. For your peace. You seemed so content. So comfortable in your own skin. I'd never felt that way. I wasn't as content as I looked," I told her. "None of us are. We all wear masks, hide our struggles, present the version of ourselves we think the world wants to see. You were watching a performance, Loretta. Not reality. I know that now. Therapy has helped me understand that I was projecting everything I thought I lacked onto you. Made you into a symbol instead of a person. And then I convinced myself that if I could become you, I'd finally feel whole. Do you feel whole now?" She considered it. "Not yet. But I'm working on it. Learning to build an identity that's mine. Not yours. Not the person Gerald wanted me to be. Just me. Loretta. Whoever that is. I'd like to help you figure that out," I said. "If you'll let me. Not as replacement parents or as a way to recapture lost time. But as sisters. Real sisters with all the messy complexity that entails." She reached across the table and took my hand, her hand that was exactly like mine but had traveled a different path. "I'd like that too. We're building something now, Loretta and I. Something tentative and fragile but real." She came to Thanksgiving dinner last year, meeting Raymond and Anne and the kids properly for the first time. It was awkward at moments, how could it not be? But also beautiful. Watching her interact with her niece and nephew, seeing them accept her with the easy adaptability of children, witnessing her cry when Sophie spontaneously hugged her and said, "I'm glad we found you, Aunt Loretta." Those moments mattered. We won't ever get back the decades we lost. We can't undo the damage Gerald did to both of us. But we can move forward. We can choose to create something meaningful from the wreckage. That's what survivors do. We take the broken pieces and build something new. I've learned some things in these 2 years since that terrible October morning. I've learned that love without honesty is worthless. That secrets metastasize like cancer, spreading poison through every relationship they touch. That the people we trust most are capable of betraying us in ways we never imagined, but that truth, however painful, is always preferable to comfortable lies. I've learned that family is more complicated than blood. That forgiveness is a choice we make for ourselves, not a gift we give others. That strength isn't about never breaking, it's about how we put ourselves back together after we shatter. I've learned that you can lose everything you thought defined you, your marriage, your certainty, your sense of safety, and still be whole. Still be worthy. Still be enough. Most importantly, I've learned that it's never too late to start over. At 64, I'm building a new life. Dating again carefully. Traveling to places Gerald never wanted to visit. Writing a book about my experiences because other women need to know they're not alone in their struggles. Taking up space in the world in ways I never allowed myself before. Sometimes Sophie asks me if I'm sad that Grandpa isn't part of our lives anymore. I tell her the truth. I'm sad about what could have been, but I'm not sad about what is. Because what is, this messy, complicated, rebuilt life is authentic. It's mine. And that makes it precious. Would I change what happened if I could? If I could go back to that October morning and somehow prevent everything that followed? I'm not sure anymore. The pain was real. The betrayal was devastating. But the person I've become, the relationships I've built, the truths I've learned, those have value too. Not everything that breaks us leaves us weaker. Sometimes the breaking is what finally allows us to grow. So here I am. Lorraine Hartley. Not Gerald's wife. Not anyone's victim. Just myself. Whole and flawed and still figuring things out. Living in a world that's messier than I thought, but also more beautiful. Connected to people in ways that are real instead of performative. I still think about that security footage sometimes. The image of my daughter pushing my sister down the stairs. The violence of it. The desperation. But I also think about what came after. The truth emerging. The healing beginning. The family reforming into something stronger, even if it looks different than before. Mom fell down the stairs, my daughter told 911. But the security footage showed something else. It showed a family in crisis. A woman protecting her mother. Secrets exploding. Everything changing. And maybe, just maybe, it showed the beginning of something better. Do I think my decisions were right? I think they were right for me. I chose forgiveness over bitterness. Chose to give Loretta a chance at redemption. Chose to rebuild instead of retreating into anger and isolation. Your choices might be different, and that's okay. We all have to find our own path through the darkness. But if you're going through something similar, if you've discovered betrayal or secrets or lies that shake the foundation of your world, know this. You will survive. You will find strength you didn't know you had. And someday, maybe sooner than you think, you'll wake up and realize you're not just surviving anymore. You're living. Really living. And that's worth everything. Where are you listening from? Share your country or location in the comments. I'd love to know. And don't forget to subscribe for more heartfelt life stories like this one. Tell me what you think about Loretta, about Gerald, about the choices we all made. I read every comment. And your perspectives help me understand my own story better. With love and respect, Auntie Helen Stories.